Hello again. Um, you see I'm wearing a hat this morning. That's because it's bitterly cold here. It's freezing, and I've yet to light the stove to warm the house up. Um, we don't have oil heating or gas or anything like that. Um, we rely on a wood burning stove, and I'm quite lucky in that we get a lot of scrap wood to fill it up with, which I have to cut off. We do buy some wood and eco logs, but I haven't used coal for, well, at least 20 years, and I don't use turf, which is very common in Ireland. I personally am committed to staying away from using fossil fuels. I mean, coal is hotter, but, well, so what? It's not good for the environment. And unfortunately, a lot of the power stations here are still powered by coal, which is obviously not great. They are increasing the renewables all the time, but obviously that's something that the world as a whole needs to get away from. So, as part of my commitment to that, I don't use any coal or turf. Um, and it's great having a supply of wood that would just probably just rot away anyway if it was left. So I might as well chop it up. It helps get me fitter and keeps me warm. And somebody said to me, you get two heatings cutting wood. One when you're cutting it up, you heat it up, and you get heated up a second time when you burn it in the stove. It's quite silly, but kind of true. Anyway, it's good to talk a bit about my books because I haven't actually made any videos about my books at all yet. So I thought I'd start with the most recent one and work backwards. I'll do one short video about each book every now and then. So this is the most recent book, The Druid Garden, which is available now on my website and a couple of other places, but it's not officially published through the publisher till the 26th of March. So basically, it's a gardening book, but a gardening book with a bit of a difference, in that it's very much from a spiritual perspective, and in particular, looking at the Druid perspective. So what I've done is I've tried to pull together as much Druidic knowledge in regard to gardens and plants, etc., as I could find, and put that into the book. I've also given a sort of overview of the history of gardening, the history of agriculture, really going right back to the end of the hunter-gatherer times, and looking at the development of gardening across the world, not just in Europe, because it's quite interesting. People would tend to think that it's a very much a European thing, but actually it's not. It didn't originate in Europe. It's something that has migrated to Europe and perhaps reached its most complex in the Western world, but it certainly didn't start here. So anyway, quite a lot of the book is about sort of core information like how soil works, about composting, because, well, like any subject, you really need to know the foundations before you start getting on to more complex things. So if the foundation is strong, then what you put on top of it is going to be okay. So a lot of it is about actually working with plants in a practical sense, which some of it includes a spiritual connection as well. But a large section is about how to plant different trees, shrubs, and I covered pretty much all of the trees and major plants of Western Europe, which is the area where the Druids would have lived. So that obviously includes Ireland, where I live, but also reaches out across to sort of more Eastern Europe, as far as the Danube region and down into the Mediterranean. So I've tried to make it easy to read, to make it suitable for absolute beginners, but hopefully not too boring for people who do have some gardening knowledge. And I've also touched on things like permaculture and biodynamics. And well, the whole thing is really about promoting ecological approaches to gardening, because we've all seen the net effect of sort of industrial farming and wasteland gardens which just clipped to death by some maniac who has to cut the grass every like 3 or 4 days, and they're out butchering whatever few plants are in the garden. That kind of approach is not really appropriate for these times. Getting back to rewilding, getting back to sort of a harmonious garden, to the permaculture idea where everything's integrated and everything works together. That's how nature is supposed to work. Nature isn't supposed to be monocultures. And as time has proven, monocultures are not beneficial. They may be beneficial to somebody's bank balance who owns a massive company and makes a giant profit out of selling one crop of soy or wheat or whatever it may happen to be. But actually, in many cases, it's not the farmers that benefit, it's the corporations that buy these monoculture crops at sort of very cheap prices and then sell it on and make a massive profit. So, I mean, who really wins from all this environmental degradation? It's people that own shares, people that own companies. They're the only winners, but ultimately they're the losers, because we'll all lose if we don't look after this planet. If we don't make personal efforts to improve the environment around us, then how can we point the finger at the big guys? If you've got a garden and you do absolutely zero to make it habitable for bees, other insects, fill it with plants and make it actually somewhere that's alive, then it's hypocrisy to call out big corporations for doing the same thing. If you don't care enough to bother with your own garden, then you don't have much of a right to criticize other people or big business for having the same attitude that you do. So anyway, I would encourage you, even if you don't want to buy this book, get out into the garden if you have one. And if you don't have a garden, you can buy containers and start growing plants on a balcony, in a backyard, etc. So anyway, that's all I've got to say for today. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.